Ha ha. I'm just posing for the thumbnail. Hey guys, what's up? And today I'm gonna do an album review on the second Arcade Fire album. Second. And that is Neon Bible. Yes, let's get straight into the point. So Arcade Fire is a band from Montreal, Canada. A great band consisting of Win Butler, Will Butler, and Win Butler's wife Regine, and all others that I can't even name, but it's a huge group, okay? And their debut album, Funeral, is really amazing. I gave it a 9 out of 10. It's so close to getting a 10 out of 10. And it's just such a beautiful and artsy statement. It has a lot of pain and beauty mixed with these strangely medieval Gothic vibes, but then it doesn't sound medieval. It sounds neoclassical, but not quite. So I kind of called it goth, even though it's not really goth. But nevertheless, it's such a strange and refreshing vibe of indie rock. And then we have their sophomore album, which is actually lesser known. It feels more mysterious and maybe more obscured. Well, first of all, the album cover, it's really cool. Am I right? Just a Bible, but it's neon, and it's really, really cool looking. And musically, this album itself, it's like Funeral, but it's more pessimistic. And it has this very strong influence of Catholic or Christian church music, old school, traditional. And I thought that's actually a pretty interesting direction to go to, even though it didn't turn out as great as the end result of Funeral. And yes, of course, it's not as medieval or as primal sounding as Funeral, and it's less artsy, and it's less freaky or eccentric as Funeral. And instead, this album actually feels a little colder for some reason, and a little more maybe bitter even. In fact, this album sounds like other versions of Rebellion Lies, but it's more pessimistic and colder as well. And most of the vocals on this album, a majority of them at least, are kind of echoed for some reason, so it gives this icy, forlorn vibe to it, and the instrumentals are actually way more simple and tad bit more minimal than Funeral. It's, of course, we have the fundamentals, the drums, the keys, the guitars, the strings, and the pianos, and occasionally we get these organs as well, which is very epic on this album. But I guess my biggest gripe with the album is that most of the chord progressions on the songs on the track list are just okay. They're not all that exciting or innovative or refreshing or strange as the ones on Funeral. They're probably written in a shorter time than those on Funeral. But whatever, just a guess. The album starts off strongly though with Black Mirror, with the heavy pianos that sounds like horse riding and waves of the sea crashing onto the shore. The drums are spacey and echoey, and it's bashing as well. And the vocals, again, it's echoey, it's forlorn, and the vocal melodies, they are bitter but sweet at the same time, and strange also during the hook. And the lyrics of this song talk a lot about the TV screen, because Black Mirror, it's referring to the TV screen. And it talks a lot about the outside world. Unlike Funeral, which deals a lot with the inside, with, ideology of love, of hatred, of, past trauma. So this song is actually kind of interesting. And I also really love the hook on this thing, where it sort of swells a little bit before it drops back down into this sea of noise. And I think it's a great setup track for the entire album, the tone of the entire album. I'm giving Black Mirror a 9 out of 10. Then we have the second track, Keep the Car Running, which is a huge and popular Arcade Fire track, which I find kind of strange because it's kind of overrated. But don't get me wrong, it's still a really good track. It's really good. I mean, it's not great, but it's still kind of good, I guess. It has these blissful and fast indie guitars and pianos, and we have lyrics about the dystopian world and trying to keep the car running. And again, my biggest gripe with the song, the chord progression. It's just okay. It's not all that flowery, neither is it all that downtrodden. It's just your basic, your average indie rock chord progression. Well, it's above average, but just a little bit, just a tad bit maybe. It really follows a strict, peace, tension, rising, climax, release chord progression. And I mean, this set of chords, this kind of set of chords is applied in a majority of the tracks on the album. But still, it's a good song, it's blissful, it's carefree, and the performance is passionate. Great musicianship as well. Kind of feeling a 7 to an 8 out of 10. And then we have the title track, Neon Bible, with the steady kick drums and the sweet guitars, which are basically the only two things that I like about this track, because the vocals, they are so quiet, they're so faint, they're almost whispering. While not like quiet vocals are bad, sometimes when vocals get quiet, they're good, but not in this case, okay? The instrumentals are very minimal as well, and the chorus of the track is super weak. Neon Bible, Neon Bible. And it's also the shortest song on the entire track list. It's pretty forgettable. And I'm kind of feeling a 5 out of 10 for the track. And then we have another huge Arcade Fire song, Intervention. And we really get to see Arcade Fire dip their toes into a more Catholic church type of musical genre, while infusing, similar meaning, right? Infusing it with the indie rock genre, and the end result is pretty interesting. Once again, the chord progression is not all that great, but it's still very bright, and it sounds very uptight, and give the song such a straight-edged vibe, similar to Neighborhood 1, except it's not that explosive or as wild emotionally. But I have to say, the church organs on this track is amazing. They're beautiful, and I have to say, the chorus or the hook is actually really hard-hitting. Working for the church while your family dies. You take what they give you and you keep it inside. I can taste the fear. Lift me up, take me out of here. It's, with the very epic and uptight church organs, but the lyrics being so downtrodden and devastating, it's almost conflicting, and I actually really like that feeling being portrayed in the song, and I'm giving Intervention a solid 8 out of 10. And then we have Black Wave / Bad Vibrations, which is another really underrated song, okay? It's really well written, and I kind of like how Regine's vocals on this track is well utilized. On Funeral, there are a couple of tracks, well, 2 to be exact, where Regine leads the vocals. And while Regine's vocals aren't that bad, but with her high pitch and her almost nasal voice. Um, her leading vocally isn't all that great when the song is, I guess, a little, heavier maybe. But on this track, her vocals are really well utilized. It's kind of shouty, a little riotty, and almost a little angsty even. And the drums and guitars on the first half of the track is actually really well performed. And the drums and the guitars on the first half of the track are kind of going back and forth, and you can hear them struggling and being frustrating, and it's musically pleasing. We can reach the sea. They won't follow me. And I also like how the chords go from cold to warm constantly on the first half, and then we hit the second half, Bad Vibrations, where Win Butler comes in with a very sentimental and emotional vocal performance, and it's quite epic, and it's quite beautiful as well. And yeah, I love this track. I'm feeling a 9 out of 10. And then we have Ocean of Noise, which has a pretty simple dance rhythm that kind of reminds me of the True Detective Season 1 theme song, the Handsome Family song, And musically speaking, I mean instrumentally and vocally speaking, the track is not bad at all. The vocals, they're okay, the chord progression, they're okay, and the performance, they're okay. So overall, the song is just okay. I mean, it's kind of pessimistic, it's kind of down, and again, it's Catholic-esque, and it's a pretty good little cool down ballad. It's pleasant, but yeah, it's just okay. In fact, it kind of reminds me of Pink Floyd's High Hopes for some reason, but it's more mellow. Feeling a 7 out of 10. And then we have The Well and the Lighthouse, which is similar to Ocean of Noise, except the guitars and pianos are way more fast-paced. It tries to be blissful, but at the same time, it sounds kind of bittersweet, so it's kind of tiring. And then we have the beat switch towards the end. It's just okay. Not like we've never heard something like that before. And once again, the chords, they are very Catholic inspired. And while, again, it sounds kind of interesting, it's just okay. Kind of feeling a 7, once again. And then we have parenthesis, Antichrist, Television Blues, parenthesis, or close bracket. And it's an interesting song title, but the song itself isn't really all that interesting. I mean, once again, we get these very fast-paced guitars and drums, bam, 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 non-stop. And then we have the lead guitars, which is pretty basic. The guitar line, pretty basic, pretty normal. And while the song overall, it's a little pleasant, a little sweet, but that's pretty much the extent of it. The vocals, in fact, is a little monotone, maybe. And, but still, I love the lyrics of this song. It's dark. It's tragic. It talks about children exploitation. And one of the lines in the song actually speaks a lot about the society right now. My girl's 13, but she don't act her age. And this line is never more relevant than now. Damn it. Anyway, the song is a 7 out of 10. And then we have Windowsill, which is another slow guitar ballad. And it doesn't really have percussions in it. And it's a pretty sweet and pleasant country indie folk ballad, I have to say. The vocal melodies, they are kind of Catholic inspired once again. Even though I feel like I've heard it somewhere before for some reason, I still think it's pretty sweet. It's pretty nice. And, pretty much all the lines on the song, starts off with I don't wanna. I don't wanna da 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 da. I don't wanna da 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 da. And it just goes on and on and on, and I don't know, maybe lyrically it could have been more interesting. Yeah, the song is just okay. 7 out of 10, once again. But the last two tracks on the record, amazing. Amazing. Finally, a strong ending. It's not as great as Neighborhood 1 or Rebellion Lies or Wake Up, but it's still two really well written Arcade Fire songs. Of course, No Cars Go, easily the best song on the entire album. It's blissful, it's fun, and it's actually blissful and fun. Not only are the guitars and drums fast-paced, the performance this time is actually way more passionate, way more enthusiastic, even though it still retains its bitterness a little bit, just like the bulk of the tracks on the album. You can really feel the energy of the entire band. Why did I stutter? The entire band. It's a very loud and energetic anthem. And yeah, the horns, they are epic. They are backed really well. Hey! No cars go. And yeah, the lyrics, even though they're not as complex, they're still fun to sing along with. We know a place where no planes go. I can't do falsetto. And yeah, I'm kind of feeling a 9 to a 10 out of 10 for No Cars Go. Solid song. And then the album ends off with My Body is a Cage. My body is a cage that keeps me from dancing with the one I love, but my mind holds the key. My body is a cage. We take one look in just because you've forgotten that don't mean you're forgiven. It's such a dark and haunting album ender, and I love it. It even has this strange vintage 20s old school horror film, like real film, grainy film vibe to it, and the instrumentals, they are almost woodwind-esque, but I don't know, but this overall sound and the instrumentation of the track is so special. It stands out on the album, you know? And the organs, towards the end when it builds up, the instrumental swells, the organs come in, and it's so epic, it's dystopian, it's dark, it's... you can feel your soul kinda bleeding a little bit while listening to the song. While the song is not as wild or as explosive as the ones on Funeral, I still love this song so much. And the beat of the song, they are more minimal. And for some weird reason, it kind of reminds me of Kanye West's Say You Will, the album opener to 808s and Heartbreak. And it's actually pretty fitting. And Win Butler, great performance. And yeah, this track sounds like taking a warm shower in the middle of a damp, cold, dark, cloudy day. And I'm just gonna leave it at that. And I'm giving My Body is a Cage a 10 to a very strong 9 out of 10, I guess. I mean, fuck it, a 10. Somewhere in between. Again, it's not as explosive, as wild or artsy or eccentric as the ones on Funeral, or as tasteful, but still, it's a real good one. And yeah, still overall, a lot of the tracks feel kind of pale, kind of stale, because the chord progression isn't all that stunning, but still, it's a pleasant album. It's a pleasant and sweet little album with some really neat Catholic-inspired instrumentations. The worst song is the title track, and my favorite song here is No Cars Go, and I am giving Arcade Fire's Neon Bible a 7 out of 10. So, have you listened to Arcade Fire's Neon Bible? From 1 to 10, how much did you rate it? Like if you like it, and subscribe if you want more.